Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Asad Abbas. This lecture comprises of two parts. In first part, we will discuss descriptive process models, whereas in part two, we will discuss continuous and model-based approaches for process improvement. In the previous lecture, we had learned the definition of the prescriptive and descriptive process models. So from the definitions, we know that the prescriptive process models tell people to do something differently, which means that they need to change their behavior, whereas a descriptive process model describes what people do every day, which means that uh, it reflects the current practices. Sometimes it is useful to develop the descriptive process models of the organizations to understand and improve their software development processes. One of the main purposes of prescriptive process models is to provide reference process framework that an organization can adopt. Since these process descriptions are usually based on well-proven and widely accepted practices, their adoption often constitutes a safe path to process improvement. A downside of the prescriptive process model approaches is that being generic, they cannot exactly fit the particularities or the specific context of different organizations. Uh, the reason might be that, in fact, a number of factors can influence the way software development activities are performed in an organization. Still, even organizations that produce similar, potentially competing software products often have widely different ways of developing them. So these differences can be related to factors such as to their organizational and historical cultures of the organizations, the social, legal, and political context in which the organizations operate, and the level of skill and type of education of the people involved. So the result is that in practice, no organization exactly follows a generic prescribed process, and no two organizations operate according to exactly the same process. The actual processes present in an organization, those that are used in practice to produce and deliver the organization's products and services, can usually be counted as one of its main assets. Normally, these processes encompass a good deal of the experience and knowledge that make an organization successful. For this reason, managing them appropriately can become a crucial activity for an organization's long-term survival. The discipline behind this type of process management is called descriptive process modeling. Uh, as its name implies, this discipline is concerned with producing an explicit and accurate representation of an organization's actual processes for purposes such as documentation, dissemination, analysis, and improvement. Here we discuss the goals of descriptive process modeling, and these goals include stable and accurate process execution. Then the second goal is process understanding, process propagation, then process measurement, process administration, and process automation. So we will discuss each of these goals one by one. So we discussed the first goal, which is stable and accurate process execution. Since software processes can be very complex, involving large number of interrelated activities, therefore their complexity makes it very hard to guarantee that processes are always executed in the same way. Also, there is always the risk that people will change the process over time without even noticing it, maybe eliminating some beneficial activities of the process. Therefore, it is beneficial to document the practices for performing the activities so that both project planners and the project performers can make sure that they are performing all the important and expected activities as per the guidelines, and they have taken into account all the relevant interrelations between those activities. Then the second goal is process understanding. Uh, Software development processes, they actually change, and there might be several reasons for change. For example, like sometimes external factors such as changes in laws and regulations or technological progress, they force the changes in which the development changes in the like development processes. However, there is always the risk that the changes that are originally uh, perceived as improvement, they end up having some undesirable or damaging consequences, which may negatively affect the overall process performance. Therefore, understanding the process is fundamental for managing such risks. And explicit process representation makes it much easier to assess the overall impact of process changes, and hence allows a better management of the process changes. Then the next goal of descriptive process modeling is a process propagation. A common problem present, especially in large organizations, is that uh, different development groups in the organization follow different processes for performing the same task. Sometimes these process differences are related to the fact that different groups may have different needs. However, it often happens that they work differently simply because it is difficult for a group to exactly tell what other groups are doing. So, by explicitly describing the processes followed by various organizational units, it is easier to achieve a unified process. A unified process is important because it allows for practices that are widely accepted as being beneficial to be propagated to all the units or departments in the large organizations. Then the next goal is a process measurement. As an organization reaches a higher degree of process maturity, it becomes increasingly important to measure the performance of the process. Aspects that are commonly measured in a process are like its productivity, that is the amount of the output produced versus the resources invested in producing it, its ability to deliver results on time, and its ability to detect and uh, correct product defects as early as possible, uh, are in fact among the many other aspects. So the reason for measuring, they vary widely from one organization to another, but often they include the desire to improve planning and increase the quality of software products by reducing the number of defects present in the products and processes when they are developed and delivered. Then the next goal we discuss is process administration. Explicitly describing an organization's development process is to be able to define goals for the process and work systematically on achieving them. Then the last goal is process automation. Since process models often contain detailed descriptions of the product and control flow in a process, so a tool can effectively support process participants by giving them access to the pieces of information that are relevant for their activities and by providing appropriate mechanisms for storing new work products and informing other process performers about their availability and status. So this type of support is especially useful in modern development environments where developers are frequently distributed geographically, often across several different time zones. Here we will discuss about the creation of the descriptive process models. Normally, a descriptive process modeling is performed in an iterative fashion. Process engineers work to gain some initial knowledge of the model processes and then like try to describe this knowledge using an appropriate process notation and then discuss this initial description with the process stakeholders. This practice can be repeated until satisfactory levels of detail and accuracy of the process description have been achieved. The approach to creating a descriptive process model consists of two major phases, and these phases include the setup phase and the execution phase. The setup phase configures the modeling approach for the organization, the modeling goals and contexts, whereas the execution phase performs the actual modeling. The setup phase consists of the four steps that include the first one is state objectives and scope of the descriptive modeling. Then select or develop process modeling schema, and then select process modeling formalisms. And the fourth step is select or tailor tools. Whereas the execution phase consists of the four steps such as elicitation, then creating the process model, analyzing the process model, and analyzing the process. So we will discuss each of these steps one by one in the next slides. So the first step is state objectives and scope. In order to properly plan and later manage the process modeling efforts, it is important to state the goals clearly before any modeling starts. The scope of the effort must also be clearly stated. So this includes like specifying something like, for example, who will use this process model. Similarly, what these people expect of this model, like which processes should be covered and like which processes are explicitly excluded from the modeling. Uh, with this information as a basis, it is possible to specify the scope more concretely. For example, knowing the general goal of the effort as well as people's concrete expectations makes it possible to determine which processes to model in which detail in order to better fulfill the stated goals and meet the stated expectations. Then the second step of descriptive process modeling consists of identifying the set of concepts that will be used to describe the processes. So the basic concepts that are important for describing processes in the organization, they include, for example, activities to be performed, work products, roles, similarly, product flows between activities and work products. That is, which products are inputs or outputs to which activities, and assignment of roles to activities. That is, which roles are responsible for performing which activities. So usually a set of concepts such as this is used to model such as this used to model the process is called a process schema. Then the next step is select process modeling formalisms. Process modeling not only requires an appropriate set of concepts, but a concrete notation in which these concepts can be expressed. A variety of modeling notations have been used over time with significant differences in formalisms and their expressive powers. And these include, for example, graphical, textual, formal, informal, fine-grained, coarse-grained, and predetermined and extensible notations. Then the fourth step is select our tailor tools. Tool support is usually necessary to effectively model complex processes. Among other things in a descriptive modeling effort, tools are useful for supporting the use of the chosen modeling notations, storing large models or model collections in a convenient and a safe way, and finally they help in producing alternative representations of the models. Then the fifth step is elicitation. The elicitation step is intended to collect information necessary for actually describing the target software process. Mainly, the necessary information might be related to the process entities and the relationship between those entities. Then the sixth step is create the process model. The information collected during the elicitation step can now be used to create a model using the chosen modeling notation. So typically one may start by modeling the products and continue with the activities and the product flows. Similarly, further entity types such as resources might need to be modeled. As a last step here, the behavioral restrictions associated with the entities, they also need to be modeled. The seventh step is analyze the process model. As process models become complex, there is an increasing risk of defects being accidentally introduced into the model by the process engineers. The purpose of the process model analysis step is to detect such defects and correct them. Then the final step of descriptive process modeling is to perform process analysis. That is to use the process model to track or analyze the process performance depending on the process modeling objectives that were stated in the first step. So the resulting data can be used for quantitative or qualitative analysis. So here we see that modeling the descriptive processes of an organization helps not only in process standardization, but also leads to the improve processes by identifying their weaknesses. So that's all for the descriptive process modeling. In the next video of this lecture, I will discuss continuous and model-based approaches for process improvement. The materials in this video are based on the book titled Software Process Definition and Management. For more details, you can consult the book. Thank you.